todos, mi nombre es Luisa Fernanda Orozco, yo soy periodista.
Hello everyone, I am a journalist from El Espectador. So here in the community, I would like to greet all people from the public and everyone who is on streaming. And I would also like to say hello to the person who is with me, Marion Giacobbi, political advisor from the French Embassy in Colombia. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Luisa, for the invitation. And thanks to the organization. First, I would like to start by talking about a very important incident that happened a few weeks ago, connected with the ICFP, and that is the 4th Worldwide Conference of Feminist Diplomacy. This will held between the 22 and 23 of September. We had the participation of Colombia and there were many important subjects such as social society, civil rights, subjects like the scale of different movements in some countries, and also, many subjects that I'm going to ask Marion. I just wanted to start with the basic things. What is feminist diplomacy? Feminist diplomacy, we can also call it foreign policy. Feminist policy is a way to conceive diplomacy, a focus of gender in all the subjects. It's not only taking on projects that support women. It's also part of putting or placing focus in gender. This could be, for example, if we have an economic subject, we have to consider it as a cultural issue. But also at internal level for the different ministries that hold this gender focus. It should happen in the ministry. We know that there are many ambassador people in our country, and to have that feminist diplomacy, to put to put more people. Only 24% of embassies in the world are held by women. We have work to do in France, but half are women. So in this way, we move forward as feminist diplomacy, and outside is bilateral. So it's good to have this attention to human rights and equality. I also wanted to talk about this conference, which is its fourth mission. I wanted to connect this that France, the last year, included in the lecture the abortion. And if I'm right, please correct me, but I think it's the only country in the world that has included abortion in the institution. So I think that connecting this with France and being host of the worldwide lecture is really important. I wanted to ask you for this conference. For France, it was very important to include this lecture. It was a very important shift for France because we want to be positioned in this activity and setting the example. As you know, we were the first country to record the right, and we did it on the 1st of March, and it's really a milestone for feminist diplomacy, and to be also able to gather together 54 countries around the subject of women and equality of gender in a context that we talk about backlash, this kind of setbacks. The subject that we defend these issues, we are only few. But so for France, it was very important to organize this moment to show that we continue to fight in this. We have to continue fighting regarding rights. At this moment, it is not finished. You know, equality is not finished. So for us, it's really important because it was a way to accelerating this international support to the rights of women. So in these two journeys, in the end, you also signed an agreement, a common call between 31 countries. And these agreements have different topics from gender equality, and I'm very interested about this. The big conclusion that the rights of women are not negotiable. That's the big conclusion of one of the ministers that were part in this Congress. I would like to ask you about these agreements. What was said? Yes, you know, the slogan of this conference was to get together and act. The idea was not just to be together as countries and civil society in Paris, but for some days, but also have a strong symbol. This is why this first conference finishes with a statement, a very powerful statement. Is this the first time that we do something like this? So for us, it's really very important to have this kind of progress. We had 8 commitments in different areas regarding human rights, to fight against violence, and to involve men and women in that feminist fight. I think this is very important, and we see this regarding health. Is not just about women. This also happens with men. We need to strengthen the work between feminist organizations to guarantee access to sexual health. I think it's very important to mention in writing in a paragraph the subject of abortion has to be included. This is about this policy degradation, and also there is the commitment of recognizing diversity of families to guarantee participation of women in the different spaces of public spaces, and to promote a feminist, the feminist point of view. As I said in the beginning, it touches everything. And in the conference, it was also mentioned the equality. I am Colombian. I am influenced by that fact that I am not impartial in my country, and also as a feminist journalist. But I also heard that between Colombia and France, there are very similar points regarding the defense of human rights and the defense of women. So I think this connects very well with the fact that Colombia was one of those countries that signed. So I wanted to ask you, for the alliance between Colombia and France, those similarities that both countries share. And I believe that the statement was really but it was very positive. Absolutely, completely in agreement. The feminist diplomacy was included as main subject, as I told you. And the intention, for example, in New York, United Nations, there is France and Colombia, and they lead these groups. I think in Colombia is since 2013. It's the first strategy that you have. We have the second one. We have a little bit more experience, but it's very interesting to share how we elaborate, how we conceive this feminist diplomacy. I think it was just the last year. And naturally, Colombia was absolutely involved in the organization of this conference, and also in the subject of the statement of intention that was signed. I think it's also very important because sometimes the feminist diplomacy is seen as something occidental or from the northern countries. The idea of this conference is to show that this is not the case. This is something of every part of the world. So there are many countries that signed. This is why Mexico also signed, Dominican Republic, and we feel proud of having this support from Colombia to generate this collaboration together for the feminist diplomacy. Now that we have a couple of minutes, I would like to ask you for something that you mentioned in the first part about how we are lack of equality in women that have positions in diplomacy. I wanted to ask you for your point of view, how you see that this equality can be reached in the world, and what examples we can pinpoint, or what it's being implemented in France in these regards of parity. I think it is really a movement. It's a worldwide movement to have more people in diplomacy, but in general having more women in different environments. This is something that is done little by little, and it's not something that can be done from one day to another. We're going to have half of women, but we are working on that. For example, in France, we have this trampoline. This is training program which is devoted to women that could become ambassadors, but who are in the middle of their professional careers, and they have specific training to be able to have more chances of being named as ambassadors. This is a small example that we have in France, and it's good to arrive to different agreements. I don't know if you would like to close with any issues for the future that we may consider. To keep promoting these feminist points of view. Well, I think that this is a daily work to defend in this context of backlash. I think that we have arrived to a point where we have some rights, but they could be in danger. For example, Simone de Beauvoir said that the first thing that could be harmed and going to be weakened in times of crisis are the rights of women and girls. It's important to have honestly all the time in every meeting that we have to have this point of view of feminist diplomacy, and not have it just only for one lecture that happens once a year. It's really that's the job that we do in France, every meeting, to have this focus of equality. Marion, many thanks for your time, for talking about this important subject in ICFP, and thanks to all the people that connected with us to be part of this. I leave you now with the next presenters.